is, of course, the insanity, the craziness, the gigantic spectacle that took place in Miami, Florida today, as Donald Trump was arrested and arraigned on 37 counts, including multiple counts of espionage. It's been a big day. We want to go through it with you guys, talk to you a little bit about our perspective on it, and just how consequential this is, and some things that you shouldn't overshoot on either. So, with that, welcome to the Strategy Room. I'll start out with you tonight, Joe. As a former Democrat, if you're in the Biden White House and you're watching the shenanigans today, how do you take it? How are you looking at it?
I think you just let it keep happening. I mean, the only thing that was just, I think, over the top was like, the presidential motorcade thing and the way cable just hung on all that look that Trump wanted out there. But other than that, I'm not sure, it's like, don't get in the way of this MAGA mess that's happening. With even the entire party just standing up and defending the guy. It's just in a lot of ways, I don't think I think they're taking the right track. Just low key, stay out of it, don't get in the way.
I think that's right. Stuart, so if you're one of the Republican primary aspirants, all of them except Chris Christie and Asa, who neither one have a real meaningful lane, they've seemed pretty either defensive of Trump or pretty damn quiet today.
Yeah, look, Rick, I mean, you and I don't run campaigns like this, right? I mean, we run
No.
campaigns to win. Um, they seem to be playing for some sort of, second place if Trump drops out. Look, it seems to me to be a tremendous opportunity to define yourself in a positive way.
Yep.
And the party that wants to be led by a guy who has been indicted on 37 counts, and let's don't forget the New York indictment, and let's don't forget the looming Georgia indictment. That's not
Right.
a party you want to lead. So you have to take the party in a different direction and say this isn't who we are or not. Because they still are in this situation. No one is going to get in a Republican debate if they won't say they'll support the nominee, who could be possibly a convicted felon. So,
Yep.
which I guess the Constitution allows. Um, but still, I just really don't. It seems to me we ought to aspire to something a little higher than like the Lyndon LaRue standard that you can run from jail.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and I do think, folks, it's one of the things we were all talking about today and sort of batting around inside Lincoln Project today was, how do you talk about this with folks so they don't think it's going to necessarily be a miracle that automatically takes Trump out of the race, but also communicates to Americans just how serious this is, just how consequential this is. I mean, we've talked a lot about, and none of us are lawyers, thank God, but we've talked a lot about this today about the peril he's in and how much it exposed American national security secrets. And in some ways, it doesn't surprise me because we've really seen the GOP transform into the sort of party of Putin, party of Kim Jong Un, party of
Mm-hmm.
extremists and authoritarians around the world. And so the thought of Donald Trump leaking national security secrets in the minds of too many Americans, I think, is really sort of like sort of a big meh. And I'm wondering if you think, Joe, there's a group of Republicans that are addressable because of this now, maybe expanding our normal target group because that vestigial sort of Cold War holdover and national security holdover in the Boomer and X generations of the GOP.
Absolutely. Look, I think the Bannon line gets bigger and bigger,
Mm-hmm.
every day. The problem is this is getting get it the hardline MAGA cult extremists dig in deeper, which I think is going to benefit Trump in the primary setting,
Right.
particularly when none of these guys are going to take him on. But I think what's lost in a lot of this coverage is look, not a single document in the 197 documents that Donald Trump turned back to the government pretty reasonably quickly when it was all discovered, not one of those documents is part of these charges, which is exactly what Pence and Biden, everybody who did that wasn't charged.
Right.
Trump wasn't charged for those 197. On the things that he was charged on, those cases, and Rick, you know this, those cases, there have been plenty of them. And those people, a lot of them have been found guilty and are serving life
Hmm.
sentences. And frankly, you can get worse than that for some of these crimes, depending on what the connections are. So I just think that lives were put at risk. National secrets were put at risk. This isn't a document case. It's really a national security case,
Right.
and therein lies the real danger. I mean, the real peril to Trump if eventually this case, he's found guilty of, which it seems to me, just the facts we know are pretty indicative. But the other side of this is it won't be settled in any way, shape, or form, guilty or otherwise, prior to the 2024 election. So the question is, I do, to answer your question, yes, I think there are Republicans who've been hanging with him. I'm talking about voters now, not electeds, because they're all
Right.
gonna gonna put their paddles in the water to defend him. But I think there is another group out there that will peel away as more of these facts come out and as the proceedings, the trial moves forward.
Yeah. So, Stuart, one of the things that happened today that interested me, two big things. First off, the crowd in Miami, the Secret Service and the Miami PD were planning for between 5 and 50,000 people, and it turned out to be a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Um, and secondly,
Well,
uh,
Rick, I guess it's
yeah,
like, somebody who gets married a lot, you can always catch the next arraignment because it seems to happen like, so I missed this one. I'll get the next one. It's not a big deal. I can go to Georgia. It'll be okay. But
That's a good
anyway,
point. It's likely to have a repeat effect. But then the second thing I noticed today was the news media might actually be learning a little bit because both CNN, to his great credit, Jake Tapper, when
Yep.
yep,
Trump did this casual drop into Versailles, the Cuban restaurant in Miami, Jake's like, nope, we're not covering it, cut away. And so did Nicole over
yep,
on MSNBC. So I think
yep.
that was a really interesting moment today. I don't, maybe am I making too much of that, or is this, or
No,
are they
look,
learning?
I've, none of us have been press haters.
Right.
We've all spent a lot of our life arguing with the press, but we've never
Sure.
been people and we lost a lot of those arguments. But uh, we never came away thinking that the press was evil, that there was some conspiracy here.
Right.
And I have a certain degree of sympathy for him in struggling with how to treat Trump because they grow up in this culture that the greatest good was objectivity, that you were supposed
Right.
to let other people decide. And I think one of the things we've learned is that that's just a flawed conceit that doesn't work. Well, that is contingent upon having actors of goodwill. And with
Right.
Trump and the now Republican
And
Party, we don't have that. So I think what we're seeing here is sort of it's like an army adapting. And I think journalism is adapting to how to deal with Trump. Um, and I think it's like a lot of these things, just kind of two steps forward, one step backwards. Um, but it just shows how our system is not equipped to deal with someone who is trying to use the system to destroy the system. And
Exactly.
that's what autocrats do. They take advantage of all the benefits of a liberal society so that they can then get into power and end them.
I
yeah,
think I think, go ahead, Joe. Go
uh,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I don't blame the press so much for they. I agree with what Stuart's saying here is that they in they I just think they kept going down this normal both sidesism
Mm-hmm.
kind of reporting
Right.
for way. I mean, they just didn't seem to catch on, even though we were not attacking them, but screaming, "Hey guys, wake up! It's not that. That's not the way to do this. Find a better way." I do think, yeah, that we're starting to see real signs that they're figuring out, at least starting to evolve in the right direction and
Right.
call out the lying liars and not, I remember how long it took them to use the word lie with Trump. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It just took a long time for them to catch on. And again, part of that, there's still a whole lot of people in the country who still think that normalcy bias, that it's all going to be okay. No, it's not, unless we all we all recognize that there's a real threat here. And I think this case is, again, what I've been saying for a long time was they keep doing the crazy, we do the work. But I've also started to say I think that people are starting to realize the crazy is dangerous. And this
Hmm.
crazy, what this president did, former president, is what is really dangerous. May have put real lives in danger, and we may, in the long run, find out that there were consequences for our assets out there because of what he was showing around and just
Sure.
you, you know.
I'm reminded of two news stories that came out. One in 2018 about
Yeah,
Jared Kushner. The intelligence community was very unhappy because Trump had given him
Yeah.
a security clearance when he couldn't qualify for one. But he came out and to the intelligence agencies and said, I need this and this and this and this and this. And it was all stuff that was completely outside of his purview. He had no business having any of this information. But Trump said, give it to him anyway. And then there's a story in 2019 about American intelligence assets overseas disappearing, dying, getting put in jail. Many of them. It was an undiagnosed leak somewhere that was causing a lot of people to get in real people who had been cooperating and helping with us, cooperating with and helping us, put their lives and their freedom in peril. And I just have to wonder if you think he was doing this at Bedminster, imagine what he was doing in the White House.
right.
Imagine what he was doing with the PDB on that iPad, going, "Hey, look at this." I think this is probably the tip of the iceberg, and
Yeah,
and
that's a great point, right? Because we're arguing about 147 boxes or something, right? That's what the counts are. And he was in the White House. I
yeah,
mean, he had everything. And you think that he got more,
Yeah, this
he
wasn't the
was
first time.
all of a sudden,
right.
a different person. The one thing about Donald Trump we know is he does not change. He is the most
No,
consistent
Right.
character. There is no story arc when you tell the Donald Trump story. He is the same person he was at 5 years old. And it, it's terrifying to think of this. Why did he kick the translator? Why are there no translator notes from these meetings that he's had with Putin?
right.
Why is it that he kept sucking up to these mass murderers? I mean, that's what Kim Jong Un is, just a mass murderer.
Sure.
Um, and the Republican Party, inside there, Mitch McConnell knew this. They knew
Of
that
course
this
he
was a
did.
dangerous man,
Yes,
and
and still
you know,
do.
and still do. And their biggest
Right.
complaint about him now is, well, he might not be electable. So if he was electable, that'd be fine. Their
Right.
objection is,
Right. Yeah.
Right. Their objection's
in a
not his
way,
amorality, an attack on the Capitol, espionage charges, sexual assault charges, election interference, and fraud and conspiracy charges. It's that he's not as electable as they would like.
yeah. I mean, it's getting serious then. Um, it's just it's so sad because when you just strip that away, what they're saying is, yeah, I'd vote, which is what they are saying. If he is nominated, I'll vote for him.
and
And
and and don't you think? I mean, even the critics right now, they're going to find a way. Even Chris Christie will find a way to say, well, I made my case against Trump, and he's a bad guy, but Joe Biden is a communist, socialist, George Soros, world government, blah blah. They'll make up some elaborate set of excuses to justify flipping back and bending the knee again. I mean, I mean, all of us have been around this circus a few times now, and it excuse me, it never seems to get a lot better in terms of like how
listen,
quickly they're willing to bend.
the days that I'm going to argue an optimistic case to the Republican Party are over. You know,
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
I had a going out of business sale for any optimism. My shelves are bare. There's nothing left there at all.
We're fresh
Um,
out. You're the wrong
I
shop
mean,
for
yeah,
optimism.
they're really. I, you know, it's part of this. I said this whole idea that all these people who work for Trump, it was January 6th that they suddenly saw the light. I mean,
Right.
give me a break. Uh, You know, most of these people would be working for Trump today if he had been reelected, and they knew who he was. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
Mike
course.
Pence was right there in the middle of this
Yeah.
conspiracy, and he called Dan Quayle, not the FBI.
Hmm.
And it
Right. And
just is.
if your go to is Dan Quayle for moral strength and authority, up your game.
I mean,
Um,
I just, you know,
So is
everybody that
Christie
went to
the
work
only
for
one?
Trump knew what they were doing.
Is Christie the only one that went out today and said? I mean, was there
Asa
anyone
said
else?
something. Somebody told me Asa had said something, but it was kind of elliptical. It wasn't, And look, we both know that Christie and Asa do not have a lane. The
Right.
MAGA base, you know, Chris Christie could raise $1 trillion, and the MAGA base is still going to be like, no thanks, bro. Sorry, moving on. Um, but the other thing I was thinking about today, and I think it's important to consider, is how quickly Mitch McConnell is losing control of the Senate. In the House, we've got
Hmm.
the Republicans now talking about impeaching Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which we've always predicted they would do. It's inevitable
Yep.
because that's their go-to game. And they're going to hold many, many hearings. They're going to hold many, many, show trials. And now in the Senate, you have J.D. Vance saying he's going to hold up all the Department of Justice nominees and the budget. And now even the normals like John Thune are doing the same thing. They're coming out and saying, "Oh, well, this is the deep state and this is that." And so I think it's I think it's important to keep an eye on that, right, Stuart? I mean, this
Why?
this
Why
is
is John Thune?
Yeah.
Why is John Thune doing this?
it is a mystery to me. My
I,
only speculation is he knows that Mitch McConnell is going to go, and maybe he wants to run for the job, and he
oh,
has to keep
Yeah.
the
yeah.
crazies in check. That's pure speculation on my part. I don't know that is the
I think that's
case, but
pretty good speculation. I mean, look,
yeah,
I've known Thune
No, it
forever.
makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense. I mean,
right.
it makes
It's kind
logical
of like
sense no
Occam's
matter
razor
how
of
logical
MAGA.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I worked in South Dakota a lot, and you may not have agreed with the guy, but he seemed like he was a sane guy. You know, I mean, he was someone that you clearly what he was saying about Trump, he didn't believe. He can say that. To go and do this, but your analysis, I think, makes a lot of sense, Rick.
I, I,
He'd love
uh,
to lead the Senate.
but McConnell would absolutely, 2 years ago, Mitch McConnell would have had this whole thing under control. And I saw him today. He looked better today than he did the last press conference. But Mitch McConnell is clearly not feeling hale and healthy right now. So the other thing, guys, that I think we should talk about, because and I just want to say just quickly to the audience, please don't think that the cases alone against Trump, even if he's convicted, are going to really change the ball game all that much. His audience is
Exactly.
so conditioned to believe that anything that happens against him is some sort of conspiracy or unreal, or that it validates even more their love and affection for Trump. So, joking about Eugene Debs and Lyndon LaRouche and other idiots running from prison, he could do it. He could win the Republican primary from jail. I have seriously no doubt
Hmm.
about it. The other thing I want to talk about today, guys, and we had a absolute bombshell piece. We've talked about this before on the channel. Is the no label story that came out today?
Yeah.
And Joe, I mean, when you saw that headline saying that no labels if DeSantis was the nominee for the Republican Party, that no labels would back out of running a third party candidate. I mean, what was your reaction to that? Because I know what mine was.
That's like it just that's the tell. It's the tell that they're out to help Trump any way they can, right? Because here they are. No, both parties are going to the extremes. We're gonna save America. And they're saying a guy running further to the extreme than even Trump on a lot of this stuff.
Right.
No, if he's the nominee, it's all okay. We'll withdraw from this third
I,
way hell. I mean,
noted
it's just
noted moderate Ron DeSantis,
yeah,
who's
it's
the most
just it just
anti-LGBT governor in the country, 6-week
yeah.
abortion ban, attacks on Walt Disney World, silent on the growing Nazi and Klan threat in Florida. It's just like,
Yeah. I remember when we worried, Rick, we were starting to worry for a little bit. Is this guy going to make Trump look more moderate and acceptable
right.
somehow, right? So that this is what I say. So they know if he wins the nomination, folks, we're we're gonna withdraw from the playing field. Just tells you what the entire thing has been about, is about. It's about helping Trump win, reelect, come back. That's what this
I mean,
thing is
Nancy
about.
Jacobson and Mark Penn now are essentially Republican operatives, right? I mean,
I mean, it's just. I mean, it was so blatant. I mean, what even sometimes what possesses them to say
is
this
it
stuff out loud?
arrogance or
Yeah,
or what? I can't even figure it out. Stuart, what do you think?
I don't know, man. I've been in a lot of rooms where when you said something in the room, it made sense. And then when he got out, it was like, were we insane? You know,
yeah.
it's the craziest thing because I think there are people that get to no labels, small donors probably, who actually believe in the idea that the country should be less partisan. And to see it sort of manipulated, those good intentions of some of those people manipulated into something that it's either naive or evil, and I give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's evil
Right.
to elect Trump. It's so obvious. I mean, look, DeSantis, least we forget, is the guy that said he would aggressively look at pardons for the insurrectionists.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
so
So
how is this
Well,
guy? Who
it.
says that agrees with Putin that this genocide in Ukraine is a territorial dispute.
yep.
So this is better. Who gets in a
But
fight, uses the power of the state to get in a fight with the happiness company, who spends $1 million creating a private police force to go after voters who happen to be black, and they only arrest 20 of them. And how many of those cases they had to throw out to begin with? What, 12 or something?
All of them.
All
There's
of them.
been
Okay,
yeah.
there you
there's
are.
not been a single successful case in that thing so far. And it was
Yeah.
just performative. It was just so he could go on Tucker Carlson and nod and wink and say, I'm keeping the black people from voting in the state of Florida. Don't
Yeah, this
worry,
was
Tucker.
after
I'm
Right.
DeSantis
with you.
said, after DeSantis went out and bragged about how well the elections went in Florida. So it's just, if that's
Well,
acceptable to you, great, then you've just sort of said it all.
but
Yeah.
look, I think there are a lot of people who, you know, buy into the idea of, hey, uh, these two parties they can't get anything done. We need to, and they've got extreme wings, and we need to get to the middle. That's a lot of and a lot of people want that. Uh, but that gets back again to this normalcy bias, like that there's still two pro-democracy parties in America, two
right.
parties. You're right, right. You're not there.
Yeah.
No one in MAGA is going to be split or divided away to vote for some other, third party. The only thing that they would be doing is dividing the pro democracy piece of that. And it's not Republicans versus Democrats or right versus
Right.
left. This is Trump and a authoritarian cult versus everybody, every American, independent, Republican, Democrat, whatever, who wants to save the democracy and move it forward and keep it. And that's what
Exactly.
they're splitting up. That's the threat that they're doing. And not only that, even if they were even mildly successful and picked up a couple of states somehow, all they accomplish is if you can't help Trump by taking votes away from Biden, which is what they're trying to do, obviously, as far as I'm concerned. But even if that you actually get more and actually win a few states, all you're going to do is take it to the House of Representatives, and
Right.
ergo, you again right back into crazy land. So it's just so I could see how people would like the narrative, which is what that's what they keep pounding, but it's all
Right.
bullshit. All of it's bullshit. There's
Yeah.
no way to square that.
Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever I talk to anybody with no labels, right, and I have friends over there, I say, look, okay, look, tell me what state you're going to win. Like, at a certain point, it comes down to that. And they can never come up with that. And I said, give me a scenario where you can get to 270 in electoral college. And they can't do that. The
They
math, I mean,
can't.
the math doesn't work. You can't. So, we're reminded how many electoral votes did Perot get? No, zero.
Yeah,
So
zero.
so then it goes to the House. So you're going to throw it to the House. That the last time we saw them, they 57% of the Republicans are voting not to certify the election. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a really responsible group. They just
Right.
made
Those.
Marjorie
Right.
Taylor Greene the second most powerful person in the House. Probably she rose to power in the House more rapidly than probably anybody else in the history of the House of Representatives. So those are the people you want to turn the country over to. I mean, these are people you wouldn't share a cab with. And you want
No.
to say, look here, you decide who the election is, Forget the fact that there's, 320 million Americans. You guys, you clearly are the ones that have the good judgment. It's absolutely bonkers. It's just the most lunatic idea.
It really. I find it, even after all this time, like the unreality of their worldview just continues to shock the hell out of me. Um, Speaking, by the way, of the House, I picked up a little piece. Somebody was texting me while we were just coming on the air that apparently Gates is out telling people that he is about to go to Kevin with a bunch of demands to uh, to keep the Taliban 20 on side for Kevin, or otherwise they're going to blow the place up again. So Kevin's learning once again that negotiating with terrorists is always a bad idea. So, but folks, I think tonight was. I mean, we had a lot of news today. The no labels thing is actually really consequential, and I'm glad folks
Mhm.
in the chat were really talking about it, because it certainly tells me a lot about that people are becoming more alert to this. It's important that pro democracy groups all come together on the no labels front, because if they are in the field in a number of these states, they can't win the election, but they can cost it for Joe Biden. And that's their plan. Whether they get Trump or DeSantis, they don't care. Same billionaires are writing the checks to Nancy and Mark. They don't care. But it's important, I think, that we all focus on that. The one other thing I want to say about the trial, and I want to wrap up with this tonight, guys. Um, yes, Donald Trump has been charged in the most serious, consequential way. There's a pro-Trump judge that's going to look like it's going to handle the case, and it's South Florida, y'all. It is South Florida. It is corrupt, it is crazy, and it is MAGA as hell. It's only going to take one person to keep their mouth shut on that jury, and they could easily
Mhm.
find a sleeper in there that would overthrow the verdict. So, excuse me. But
Yeah, I mean,
with
look,
that, yeah,
the only thing I can think of more scary than turning over the fate of the country to the House of Representatives is turning it over to Florida man. I mean, look,
Right. Yeah.
we are living, in a Carl Hiaasen novel.
Well,
Um, you say like, yeah, let's let those some guys, some people down in Florida, decide. Good
I
luck.
mean, look, that's why we keep, we got to keep doing the work. This is not gonna. You can't keep wishing for,
right.
hoping that, that he's. First of all, I don't think there's any chance that this will be completed before the 2024 election. I mean,
No,
that's just me. I don't see any. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see any way that that's going to happen. Rick's right to call out what the possibility there of a jury in South Florida would be like. But I think, look, he's gonna play the martyr the whole way,
all the
and
way
they're not
down.
coming. Yeah, I'm the only thing stopping them from coming for you too, and all that garbage. And we've got to keep doing the work and keep taking it to them and keep exposing the lies. And I think further than that, though. Uh, I hope that the press starts to, as it looks like it's starting to do, starts
Mm,
evolving in a better way to defend, to realize it's democracy on the ballot, and and
Right.
hmm
and
Yep.
they need to tell that story.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Stuart?
Look, I'd like to think this was a good day. Um, a courthouse in the United States of America. arraigned Donald Trump on as serious charges as you can really imagine a former
Right.
president being charged with. Um, so we really are at the moment where I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it as being put to the test.
Yep.
And I think that what is so telling here is the essence of America is that we're a nation of laws and it's not about one person, that no one is exempt from the law. So when you
Right.
listen to their language and they talk about, they say, if this can happen to Trump, it can happen to anybody. That would be the point. That's
Yes.
how the system is designed. You should listen to that. And when
Rule of
Trump
law is a
refers
good
to,
thing.
yeah, when Trump
Yeah.
refers to my boxes, as if these were these national security assets that people literally had died for, a
Right.
legacy of all the people that have died for democracy in America, as his boxes. I mean, it's just really a test here of the idea of America. And are we going to defend it? And it's not about right or left or Democrat or Republican. And, all the years you and I were spent pointing out flaws in the Democratic Party, it's the only pro-democracy party in America, and that's all that matters.
At this moment, it's where it's at. So, well, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the strategy session. One thing I'd like to ask the folks in the audience watching tonight, if you could do, share Resolute Square with your friends. Let them know we're trying to grow the network. It is something that when people hear about it and they start digging into the great writers we have on the site, and the podcast, Joe's podcast, mine, Burn the Boats. We've got some exciting new podcasts coming down the pike soon as well. And tell them about Resolute Square. We're trying to grow the family here, and we appreciate your help on it. So we look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. We will continue to be in the fight, and if you're in Bedminster tonight or tomorrow, you're going to see an ad called "Rats" from the Lincoln Project, which is not going to make Donald Trump happy. We're going to stay in Donald Trump's head on the other side of the fence at Lincoln, aggressively trying to wreck his business. So, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate all of you. We'll see you again next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.